we'll keep your resume on file. I said that phrase to candidates hundreds of times when I was at every company I've been at. And I want to tell you exactly what was happening on my side every time I said it, because it is not what you think it is. I spent 15 years in recruiting and HR, including 4.5 years at Amazon, and across that time, I have been on both sides of this phrase. I have said it to candidates, and I've also received it after getting laid off myself. So I have a complete picture of what it means and what it doesn't, and I think being direct about it is the most useful thing I can do for you here. When candidates hear that line, a lot of them wait. They check their email every few days. Some of them do this for months on end. And I understand why, because on the surface, the phrase sounds like a soft yes, like you're still somewhere in consideration, still in a pile, still a possibility. You are not. I'm going to tell you what that phrase actually signals, and then I'm going to give you the specific move to make the moment you hear it, so you stop waiting and start moving. Here's the thing, recruiters are not heartless people. When we say we'll keep your resume on file, we are not running some calculated deception. We are reaching for the closest phrase in our professional vocabulary that closes a conversation without having to say what we're actually thinking, which is, this process is over for you and I don't have the bandwidth right now to walk you through why. We aren't saying it to be cruel. That is what happens when a recruiter is managing 100 open conversations at the same time under real-time pressure. The corporate script exists for a reason. Specific rejection reasons open the door to arguments, appeals, follow-up questions that take time a recruiter under a full workload does not have. So the phrase functions as a verbal off-ramp. You hear it, the call and the email ends, both parties move on. The problem is that one party, you, the candidate, sometimes doesn't realize that that's what just happened. This is where I want to be really specific with you, because I think that is the thing that costs people the most time. When a role closes, the application tied to it sit in whatever applicant tracking system the company uses. I have used most of these systems across multiple companies, so I can tell you directly what comes next. Most recruiters are not sitting down on a Tuesday morning thinking, let me go through the 280 people we didn't hire for the ops role from 4 months ago and see who fits this new one. That is now how most recruiting works. When a new role opens, we post it. We wait for incoming applicants. We do our own LinkedIn sourcing. We source within the applicant tracking system for specific keywords. We get referrals from the hiring team. Going back through old declined applicants for a specific job posting that closed, usually the last thing that happens. For many companies, does not happen at all. Now, there are real exceptions to this. If you made it to the final round and a recruiter specifically said, we have a similar role opening in about 2 months and I want to flag it for you. That is a real specific conversation and it means something. A recruiter that tells you that will follow through, but a blanket will keep your resume on file at the end of a rejection email you got without ever speaking to a human, that is not a commitment to reach out. That is the default language the system populated when your application was declined. The stage at which you hear this phrase tells you something very specific about where your candidacy fell short. If you applied online and got a rejection email with this line without any contact from a recruiter, your resume did not clear the initial screen. That is a resume signal. If you had a phone screen and heard this at the end of the call, you got further than a large percentage of applicants, but something in that conversation did not land the way it needed to. That is a positioning signal. If you made it to the final round and received this phrase, ask a direct follow-up question before you accept it. Something like, is there a similar role coming up that might be a fit, or is this a specific to this position? A recruiter who is genuinely keeping you in mind for something will answer that directly. One who's using this phrase as a close will tell you in how they respond. And I am honest with you. At the final round stage, the rejection usually comes down to 3 things: compensation, alignment, a specific skill or experience gap, or an internal candidate who wasn't viable at the start of the process. None of those things are personal. None of them are fixed by waiting for a file to be opened. The move I would make after hearing this phrase is to treat it as a clean close and start moving forward. Practically, that means two things. First, if you want to work at that company, go back every few months when a new role opens. Don't wait for the file to be discovered. Submit a fresh application because the new role will have a new recruiter pipeline attached to it. The person reviewing your resume may not even be the same person you interacted with before, and there's no tag on your profile really that says passed over last time. You are starting fresh most of the time. Go in with a strong, updated application. Second, use the rejection to examine what stage you got cut at, because each stage has a different fix. Cut at the resume screen, update the resume. My cafe method, cause, action, findings, effect, is the fastest way I know to tweak a job description bullet from weak and turn it into something a recruiter can read in 3 seconds and immediately understand. Cut after the phone screen, work on your verbal summary. Practice saying what you do and why it's relevant to that type of role in under 60 seconds. Cut after the final round, ask for feedback before you leave. A lot of candidates don't ask. You can say, would you be able to share any feedback on where I could improve for roles like this in the future? You won't always get an answer, but you will get one more often than you'd expect. The one move I would not make is following up with the recruiter every few weeks, hoping the file gets opened. Sending that energy on a real conversation is going to be more worthwhile. Connecting with someone who works at the company on LinkedIn, having a genuine exchange about what the team does and what they look for is worth more than a dozen follow-up email into an inbox that is already overloaded. If you are in an active search right now and you want to make sure your resume is doing real work, not sitting in a file that nobody is opening, if you want to build or update your resume yourself, Get Selected at getselected.app is free to start. It walks you through the cafe method bullet by bullet and shows you exactly how to write what you did in a way that a recruiter can read fast and actually understand. If you want someone to do it for you, the full service, human written, done by the same team behind this channel, that's domyresume.com. 38 years in business, 325,000 plus resumes, and a 94% interview success rate. Your resume should be working for you, whether you're actively searching or not. Don't wait for a file to be opened by somebody. And until next time, stay caffeinated.